We continue now at the top of Daf Samech Tesam Beis Mesechet Kesubos. This is Kesubos Daf 69b. And the previous Amud, Rav Hanan sent a question to Rav Huna, and Rav Huna responded very sharply, and he also used the word marzicha, which Rav Hanan did not know the meaning of the word marzicha. And so Rav Hanan went to Marukva to ask the explanation of Rav Huna's response. And so Marukva said, Gufa du'uv deheche have, tell me, Rav Hanan, what exactly happened? Amar Lei said to him, Hachi vachi avemaisa, the following was what happened. Amar Lei, so now Marukva responds to Rav Hanan, Gavra de lo yada ma'niu marzicha, somebody who doesn't even know what marzicha means. Shalach leila Rav Huna, Huna chavrin, he sent a message to Rav Huna and said, Huna, our friend. That's not an appropriate way to send this message to Rav Huna, and that's why Rav Huna responded in a sharp fashion. And the Gemara says, my marzicha, so what is marzicha? And the Gemara answers, Evel, it refers to a mourner. Tichsiv, like the pasuk says, Ko amar Hashem, al tavo beis marzeach. And this pasuk is also, when it says beis marzeach, the pasuk goes on to talk about eulogies. It's talking about avelus, and therefore you see that marzicha is referring to an avel. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Some Rabbi Avo says, Minayin lo avel shemesa barosh. How do we know that an avel sits at the front, sits at the head? Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Evchar darkam ve'eshev rosh ve'eshkon kemelech begedur kasher avelim yenachim. So it talks about the fact that I'm going to sit at the head like the avelim. And so the Gemara says, 1 second, Yenachem acherem mashma. It says Avelim Yenachem, the ones who are comforting the mourners. It's not talking about the mourners sitting at the head. It's talking about those coming to comfort the mourners that are sitting at the head. So how is this a proof from this pasuk? And the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says Yinachem ksiv. Even though we read it as Yenachem, it's written as Yinachem, meaning to say those who are being comforted, referring to the mourners. And the Gemara continues, Mar Zutra Amar Mehachem. Mar Zutra says it comes from the following pasuk, V'sar mirzach seruchim, and that word again, like the word marzicha. So it talks about the mirzach. What is mirzach? Mar v'zach, it means those who are embittered and those who are flustered, meaning the mourners. Nase sar l'sruchim, they will become the head. They will sit at the front of those great people who are coming to comfort them. That is the proof that the avel sits at the front. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, Hilchasa, the halacha is, mimekarkoi v'lo mimetaltali, one collects from land and not from metaltalin, bein lemezone, bein leksuba, bein leparnasa. Whether we're talking about mezonos, whether we're talking about ksuba, whether we're talking about parnasa, which refers to the dowry. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Hamashlish Mos Labito. Let's say somebody deposits money on behalf of his daughter to a third party. V'hi omeres Nemon Bali Olay. And she says, I trust my husband, you can give him the money. Ya'asa Ashlish Mashahushlish Biyado. That third party should do what he was instructed to do by the father. He should not give the money to the husband. Divrei Rabbi Meir, that's Rabbi Meir's opinion. Rabbi Yossi says, V'chi Eina Elasada. But what if it was just a field? V'hi Rotza L'mochran, she wanted to sell it. Harei Mechura Me'achshav, it would be sold. And so therefore she could give the money. She could have the money given over to her husband. And the Mishnah finishes, when is all of this true? It's only true by a girl who's an adult. But if you're talking about a katana, what a katana does is not going to have any substance. And Rashi over here says, Hamashlish mos labito, mosar mos biad shlish. The case is as follows. A person gives money to a third party, litzorech bito, for his daughter, likno sada unadunya likashitinase. And that money is supposed to be used to either buy a field or buy a dowry when she actually gets married. Vihi omers la'achar shenisas. And then after she actually gets married, she says, Nemon bali olay, I trust my husband. Shalo ya'akvim le'atzmo. He's not going to use the money for himself. I trust him. He'll do the right thing with the money. To name lo, give him the money. V'hu yiknali sada kasheretz, and he's going to buy me a field when I want the field. I don't need the third party to buy the field for me. Yasa shlish yikna hasada. The shlish should just buy the field. Ve'ein shomen lo. He should not listen to her. The mitzvah l'kayim divrei hameis. It's a mitzvah to fulfill that which the person who is deceased, that those were his instructions. He said that it should be done by the third party in this fashion. Therefore, the money should not be given to the husband. And the Mishnah had said that Rabbi Yossi says, no, it's no different than a field. What will it benefit for him to buy this field for her? Let's say there was no money right now. Let's say the field was already bought for her. She would want to sell it. She's allowed to sell it. Therefore, since she would have control over the field to sell it and get money, therefore she should have control over the money, and she should be able to say to give the money to her husband. Then the Mishnah said this is only by a Gedola, but not by a Katana. The Gemara will explain exactly who is teaching this line in the Mishnah. It means to say, when do we listen to her again? When she's an adult, but not when she's a Katana. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught, this is a Tosefta, Hamashlish mos lechasano likach me'ansada levito. Let's say a person deposits money with a third party. for his daughter, that a field should be purchased for his daughter when she gets married. And she says she wants the money to be given directly to her husband so that he can invest it as he sees fit. So if she's already married at that point in time, she says that, then she has the authority to do that. She can say that the money should go to her husband. But if it's just the time of Erison, the time of the betrothal, then the third party should do what he was instructed. Divrei Rabbi Meir, that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir, similar to Rabbi Meir in our Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi says it depends. Hagedola, if she's an adult, bein min hanesuin bein min ha'erisin harashas biyada. Whether she's married, whether it's the time of the betrothal, she does have authority to do that, to give the money to the husband. But if she's a ketana, if she's a minor, bein min hanesuin bein min ha'erisin, whether it's the time of marriage, whether it's the time of the betrothal, yasa hashlish mashu ushlish biyado. The third party should do exactly what he was instructed. Rashi over here says, Min hanesuin harashas biyada. Why is it that at the time of marriage she has more authority? Because even the father, he was only giving it to the third party until she'd actually get married. At that point in time, then the field was going to be given over to the married couple. The Mishanissus, because once she's married, at that point in time, the husband already does have some rights because he gets the fruits of that field. And so therefore, there already is a certain transfer at the time of the marriage. And that's why Rabbi Meir makes a distinction between the time of the Erison and the time of the marriage. And the Gemara said further, my beinayu. So what exactly is the difference between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi? Because Rabbi Meir, he made a distinction between Nisuin and Erison, and Rabbi Yossi made a distinction between Ketana and Gedola. Behei pligi, begedola, beketana. So what are they arguing about? Are they arguing about a situation of an adult, or are they arguing about a situation of a minor? That's the question of my beinayu. And the Gemara says, if you're going to say that the machlokes Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi is, let's say she's a minor and it is the time of the Nisuin. To Rabbi Meir savar hershus biyada. That's what Rabbi Meir was saying. He was saying that by Nisuin, even by a katana, she has the authority. Rabbi Yossi l'meimar, and then Rabbi Yossi is coming along and saying, no, afilu min Nisuin nami, even if it's the time of marriage, gedola in katana lo. I only agree that a gedola can do this and not a katana. But if you're going to say that that is the machlokes Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi, so ema seifa, let's look at the end of the Mishnah. The end of the Mishnah said, Aval bekatana in ma'isa katana klum. It said that a katana, anything she does has no substance. So haman katani lo. Who's the one that says this? Ilema Rabbi Yossi, if you're going to say that it's Rabbi Yossi who's saying that it's problematic for a katana to do it, anything the katana does is a problem, it can't be this line as Rabbi Yossi. Hamereisha shamatmina, because we already know this from the beginning of the Mishnah that Rabbi Yossi says this. That would be a repeat. The Yomer Rabbi Yossi, because what did Rabbi Yossi say in the beginning of the Mishnah? V'chi eina elosadeh. Rabbi Yossi argued as follows. Let's say it would already be a field. Let's say it wouldn't be money. V'hi rod salamochran. She wants to sell it. Harei mechur me'achshav. She could sell it. And therefore Rabbi Yossi argued that she has the authority with the money as well. But that argument clearly only applies to a gedola. Gedola debas zvini in, ketana delab bas zvini hilo. When you're talking about a gedola who's able to sell things, she can be involved in sales, so then you can make this argument. By a katana, you cannot make this argument, and therefore it is obvious that Rabbi Yossi is saying a katana can't do anything, so there would be no reason to repeat it again at the end of the Mishnah. So who's the author of the end of the Mishnah? El Rabbi Meir. Obviously the end of the Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, and he's making some kind of a restriction by a katana. And here's what Rabbi Meir is saying. The third party should do what he was instructed to do. She does not have the authority. And that's only true, though, at the time of Erison. But if it's the time of the Nisuin, then she does have the ability to, then she does have this authority. And when is this true? Begedola. That's only true by a gedola. But if you're talking about a katana, ein maisa katana klum. What a katana does is nothing. In other words, it comes out that according to Rabbi Meir as well, a katana cannot do anything. And therefore, if a katana cannot do anything according to Rabbi Meir, and a katana is also not able to do anything according to Rabbi Yossi, it can't be there arguing by a situation of a katana at the stage of Nisuin. And so the Gemara says, you're right, rather what they're arguing about is a situation of a gedola where she's an adult, but it is at the stage of Erison. Rabbi Yossi says at the stage of Erison, so Rabbi Yossi says as long as she's a gedola, it's good enough. That's what Rabbi Yossi means to say, ha-gedola bein min ha-nesuin bein min ha-Erison harashus biyada. Because of the fact that she's a gedola, she has this authority. But Rabbi Meir says, no, that's not the case. Rabbi Meir says, since it's a situation of Erison, therefore she has no authority, she cannot do this. And the Gemara continues, Itmar, we have the following, Machlokas Amoraim, Rav Yehuda, Mar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says halacha ki Rav Yossi. The halacha is like Rav Yossi. Rav Amar Rav Nachman, and Rav says, Rav Nachman says, halacha ki Rav Meir, that the halacha is like Rav Meir. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Ilfa tola nafshe be'iskaria de makusa. Ilfa suspended himself by the mast of a ship. And Amr, and he said, Iko de asi damar li milsa devei Rabbi Chia v'Rabbi Oshia. If anybody comes and tells me something from the yeshiva of Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Oshia, below pashitna leima masnisan, and I'm not able to explain it from a Mishnah, nefila me'iskaria v'tavana. I will fall from this mast of the ship and I will drown myself. Rashi over here says, Tala nafshe gufa dovda v'Mesechet Tainus. This story over here, the full story is in Mesechet Tainus, Misham dozvu Rabbi Yochanan bereisha, because they made Rabbi Yochanan the Rosh Hashiva. Keshalach Ilfa b'schora, because Ilfa went to do business. Ki yasa amru lei. So therefore, when he came, they said to me, Havi Yosef mar v'garis lo mar havi malach. They said, if you would have just stayed and learned, so you would have been the one who would be the ruler, who would be the Rosh Hashiva. So that's why Azal Tala nafshe b'skaria de makusa b'chlunsos harazim shatolim ba'vilan hasfina. Again, he suspended himself by the mast of the ship, and that's why he said, if anyone can tell me anything from Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Oshia, and I can't give you a source from the Mishnah, then I'm going to jump off this ship and I'm going to drown myself. So also Usaba, so a certain elder came, Tanale, and taught him the following from a Tosefta. Ha'omer tenu shekel levonai b'Shabbos. Let's say a person says, he's on his deathbed, he says, give 1 shekel to my sons every single week, or re'uyin litein lahem sela, but really it's evaluated, they should really get a sela, which is 2 shekel. So no'osnin lahem sela, we give them a sela instead of the shekel. But if the father said, Al titnu lahem elo shekel, if he said only give them a shekel, so then it's clear that he really is being makbid, it's only a shekel. In the first version of how he said it, he obviously wants to give them that which is appropriate. But if he says only give them a shekel, ein nostin lahem elo shekel, then we only give them a shekel. Now, if the father says in Mesu that if they die, yirshu acherim tachteim, I want certain other people to inherit after them, so in that case, it seems that he does want to keep the inheritance preserved. So bein shamar tenu, bein shamar al titnu, no matter what language he says, ein nosin lahem ela shekel, we're only going to give them a shekel. So Amar lei, so Ilfa responded to him, money, who is the author of this Tosefta? And Rashi over here explains, shekel chatzi sela. Again, the father says, I want every week they should get a shekel, which is a half a sela. Uru'uyin sheina nizonin b'pachos, but really they can't sustain themselves with so little. So nosin lem sela. In general, you would give them a sela. Diyav yadashi siakra mizonos. Had the father known that mizonos would be more expensive, they really need a sela. Lo avamar, he wouldn't have said that. He would have given them the sela. But if he says al titnu, if he says only give them a shekel, hare micha biyadam, then he's already protested. V'lo ason yarshim ela binyan zen, he's only allowed them to inherit in this fashion. That's why if he says al titnu lem ela shekel, you only give them a shekel. And Rashi continues in Mesu. Let's say the father says that if they die, others should inherit, meaning to say below banim, they die without sons, and then he specifies their later yarshim. So then also ein nosin lahen ela shekel, we only give them a shekel. Shein lanu lahafsid es haboim acharim. We don't want to make those who are coming after them lose out. V'hoel v'yosas acharim yarshim acharim. Since he made those others to be the inheritors after them, vaday dafka shekel kamer. He obviously meant specifically a shekel. Kedei shetibol yerusha acharim losan acharim, because he wants the yerusha after the sons to go to these particular people. And so then Ilfa responded, Hamani, who is the author of this Tosefta? Heichad da amar lu al titnu lahem ela shekel ein nosin lahem ela shekel. Who's the one that says that if you say only give them a shekel, we only give them a shekel? Now, even though really all the property really is theirs, still lo yahavinan lahu bekotanan ela shekel b'Shabbos. Still, the author of the Tosefta is saying when they are minors, we only give them a shekel every week. They have to get the rest from tzedakah. They are going to inherit everything once they become gedolim. But as ketanim, we listen to what the May said, and we only give them a shekel every week. And Rashi over here continues, We said earlier that a person is not allowed to go get tzedakah from the public if they don't really need it. So that seems to contradict what we're saying over here. Over there we're talking about a situation where he says, don't use my property to bury me, and that's his property. There we're not going to listen to him and bury him from the charity funds in order that his sons have more money. Over here, this property really doesn't go to the orphans, except according to the instructions he leaves, and that's why this case is different, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Amud Aleph.